Hi everyone, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
All
loud and
right,
clear.
thanks a lot. Thanks for joining on time, Natalia, as expected. Thanks for everyone who's on time as well. As usual, we'll have a few people join us as we go, but I think that we can jump in. So, my name is Tayo, and you're welcome to another edition of RevStar Community's Accelerate series. Um, I'm thrilled to host this one. I say host, but I'm actually more like a listener and learner as well. This is going to be one of those very interesting ones. And we're talking about a topic that many of us within the revenue function are now starting to grapple with, as we're now sort of having to build teams, lead teams, and even more so across generations, if you know what I mean. And so to do justice to this topic, by the way, the topic is building and scaling successful teams. And what we're going to be learning is how to build these teams, how to grow them in ways where they're not just surviving, they're actually thriving. And I have Natalia here with me, someone who I hold in the highest regard. She's been there, done that, worked in very amazing companies on a global scale, doing what it is that she's going to talk to us about today. Companies like Meta, Motorola, and a few other ones, right? Natalia, I will hand over the microphone to you, let you introduce yourself a little bit more and just take it away.
Will do. Thank you, Tayo. Thank you for that lovely intro. And I would like to share with the group that I was lucky enough to meet Tayo in person in Kigali when I was there last October, and we shared the stage together, and we had a lot of fun doing a lunch and learn for entrepreneurs based in Kigali. So I was thrilled when he reached out to me and said, would you like to talk about, something to this community? So I'm really honored and thrilled to be here with all of you. And I'm sure that we'll have a really great exchange of ideas and experiences. I'm very passionate about the topic of building teams and nurturing teams. So what I'll be sharing with you is basically my experience with doing trial and error over the years, what worked, what hasn't, and maybe share with you these tips so you could you can take them with you and help you in your own journeys. I am based in London, originally from Argentina, and I've been in the field working for a long time. I started in the telecoms industry. In more of a technical roles because I have my background is in computer science, but then gradually I moved more and more into the commercial side of enterprises and how to run commercial teams, build those teams, deliver revenue, deliver success, in alignment with the company goals. From telcos, I moved to advertising tech. Which has been another fascinating topic. And there I joined different companies with different stages. From Meta, I was quite well established, even though quite young still as a company when I joined, to more startups that needed everything from the ground up. So as I said, a lot of trial and error, a lot of bruises on the road, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So here we are. And since we are a smallish team, I would say, may I ask just for if you want to shout out what's top of your mind for you in terms of a challenge that you may be facing on building and scaling teams? So that will help me as well to tailor my presentation. So no particular order, Tayo, if you want to do round robin, whatever works. I would love to hear from this lovely audience, what's top of mind about building and scaling teams.
Yeah, I'll go first just because I have the microphone. So I think for me, I've had to do this across a number of different industries and geographies. And oftentimes, some things that worked in the past stop working. Something that worked in certain environments don't work. And so I'm sort of looking for a hack where there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 5 things where if you nail, then you're assured to some level that you'll be successful. So I'm looking for kind of like the all 9 yards, I think.
Okay, easy peasy.
Yeah.
No.
I'll ask Toby and then Bukayo and anyone else that wants to go in that order. So Toby.
All right, thank you, Tayo. Thank you, Natalia. I think for me, because I'm more of in a customer-facing role, so I think for me it would be, you know how you start getting an increase in your customer base and customer keeps growing, the ability to ensure that whatever expectations or strategy you started out with, you can keep up with it. So your customer base is growing, and you want to ensure that you're maintaining that. Or how do I put it? Maybe whatever you started with, your strategy started with, and you can keep it as your customer keeps growing. You're not losing. So let me just use the word culture, right? Let's say the culture you have when your customer is at 20 customer count. Can you keep it when you have 100? Can you still keep it when you have 120? That kind of thing. So that's what I'm looking out for, really.
Got you. Any other top of mind challenges?
Yes, Paul, please go ahead.
Thank you, Tayo, and thank you, Natalia, for your time. I'm expecting this to be awesome. So,
Pleasure.
My challenge is that how do you scale a team in the face of budget cuts when your organization keeps saying, I currently lead a technical team, and everything tech, especially when you're dealing with a lot of non-tech people, they say, oh, the tech team is taking up too much of the budget, we need to cut it. But then within the tech team, you know the value of the work that you're doing. And so how do you go about advocating for scale when funding is a challenge?
Got you. Very good question. Any other thoughts from the group?
All right, we can take the rest in the chat. So if you have any more, you can type in the chat as we proceed.
Raise it. Perfect. That's great. So I'll share a few slides just to guide the conversation. But as we said it before, just raise your hand if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to cover those. We can also have it as a conversation. You may have experience as well that you want to share with others, so we could all bring to the table our own wisdom. Okay, so let's see if this works. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, I can see it as well. So hopefully that works. Great, brilliant. So let's go straight into the meat of this. Basically, I'm going to talk about 4 different pillars. The very first one for me is foundations, and that's what I call organizational design. And we want a resilient organizational design to help us grow. Initially, could be a very, very, very small team. But if you focus on building the right foundations, that team can scale consistently and become very robust and strong. So this is, for me, the starting point of really building a strong group of people that deliver for themselves and the organization. So what do I mean with this? Based on my observations and different things that I experience, a resilient organization basically displays at least these 4 key capabilities that you have on the screen. First of all, agility. And it sounds like most of you are in enterprises that are quite agile and facing challenges and potentially small and scaling in size. So being agile is critical, right? So you need to face whatever comes to you and be able to find a solution. So organizations that keep that as part of their DNA, particularly operate in a decentralized stage, makes each team, each individual, each part of the organization, the company as a whole, be able to execute regardless. So access to data is very important in this aspect, because whoever is making decisions to continue going will need to make the right decisions with the data they have. But the other aspect of agility is linked to good enough. Good enough as a concept of we're not aiming for perfection, which just needs something to happen that is good enough. Perfection sometimes tends to hinder or slow us down. So agile organizations are going to be focused on doing the best that they possibly can with the data that they have, and just make it happen and iterate from there. And that aspects allow us to grow as an organization as well and as decision makers, because making mistakes allows us to learn. And if we're agile, we pivot and we become better. So we are constantly iterating. It's a journey. It's not a final end goal. The second aspect is, of course, that the leadership level, right? And everybody could be a leader. It doesn't need to be the executive team. And that's an important part of an organization that is robust, that people are comfortable in their own skin and that they have the tools and the empowerment they need to do so. So adaptable leaders are constantly investing on people. And this is an interesting thing because leadership has evolved over time in terms of what a good leader would look like. And I'm sure that you all have your opinions about what a good leader is, and they're perfectly valid. But my experience has been always that the ones that are extremely successful and supported as well are the ones that invest on people, invest on their teams, invest on their colleagues, and focus on nurturing those individuals. Whoever shines is not going to only shine for itself, but also is going to be contagious. So it's a very important aspect of being a true and strong leader from my opinionated view. The third aspect would be self-sufficient teams, which is, you see the theme, right, is all interconnected. So teams that are empowered, that are given ownership of what they are supposed to achieve, and they have clear guidance and goals of what good looks like, are going to be much more successful. There's lots of research done around this. So empowerment pays off in so many ways, allowing individuals and teams to be able to deliver, but also be accountable about what they're delivering and find a purpose on what they're doing. And lastly, more as an individual human aspect of work and company organizations, is they focus on talent and culture. So there's two sides to this, but generally when an environment is adaptable, agile, you have these leaders that support their teams, talent is attractive to these environments. So you're going to be like a magnet of these people that want to work this way because they thrive. Now they find the place, and therefore they're going to want to stay, and they're going to attract more talent as well to join them in a really nice cycle of resilience and loyalty towards the purpose of what you need to achieve. So if we have these concepts in mind, then my biggest recommendation would be, as you need to start thinking about building your teams or bigger parts of the organization, is to really take the time, step back, lock yourself and your support team or whoever you enlisted to help you design the foundations of your organization, and do the homework. Don't take shortcuts about designing how your organization is to look like. So really, really invest the time in understanding the roles that you need and defining those roles to be effective with a growth path. It's very important that roles have a future. And then also that those roles have really, really strong learning and development foundations. All that nurtures people. So let me dig deeper into each of them. Effective roles, what do I mean by that? So basically, when you're looking at what type of roles you need in your organization, and Toby, here I'm thinking about your particular question about how to keep that service level for your customers. So when you sit down to design your organization, you don't think about it how it needs to look today. You think about it how it needs to look today and in the future. So whatever you start creating as role definitions are already allowing for growth. That is not only great because it will allow your business to grow, but also will allow individual to grow, which is the second aspect of the key ingredients of a strong organization. So when you think about those roles, think about your business goals, your mission statement. The values of the company are also very, very important. Values are very much linked to culture. People identify with those values, then they become part of the culture. So once you identify the different roles that you need to deliver your business, think about defining them properly. Don't take shortcuts here. Don't do fluffy job descriptions. Really think about what good looks like in that role. What do you expect from the individual in this role? How that individual is going to shine in that role? What an excellent job in that role really means. So do invest time with on this. You don't need to do it alone. I'm sure that you will have other partners, the people team or other teams that could help you. But it's very, very important, because once you describe what good looks like in a role, then you can start finding the right people, because you know what you're looking for. So it's kind of those basic things that we take for granted and we don't necessarily stop to think about. As the responsibilities are critical to define a really strong role, also the purpose of that role is also important. Purpose in a role, it gives it validity, gives it authority. It really, that role becomes recognized and accepted by the individual, but also by the team and by the organization. Again, fluffy roles don't go far because people don't respect them. They do not value, they're not seen as a particular role that brings value to the organization or the teams. A thing that I see over and over and over happening is that companies think about, okay, well, we have this great talent, we need to find a role for this person. It's all the way around. Define the role and then find the right person for the role. When you try to fit a circle into square, you may think that it may work eventually, but it doesn't. So think about really what you need to achieve and then match that with the right skills and talent. And every role needs to have a growth path. I already hinted at it, and it's absolutely vital to maintain the team engaged and excited, and also doing their best, because they know that what they're doing today gives them meaning, but what they can achieve in the future will also give them meaning and make them feel proud of their professional journey. And a lot of this that I just described for you is underpinned by investing on your people. So sometimes I see that, especially in small companies, people need to come in and hit the ground running. I know that there are very good reasons for that, but it's a short-term solution. Someone that doesn't have the opportunity to really onboard properly, it's going to struggle mid and long term, because they will constantly have to go back to something that they haven't learned, or learned halfway, or learned as they can ad hoc, but never giving them that holistic view of what your company is about, or what your product is about, or what customers need, and so on and so forth. So in many instances, I've been very direct with my team and said, these 2 or 3 months we work on the plan are going to be for you to learn. Just learn. Don't need to prove yourself. Don't need to go and start managing your accounts right away. Just take your time and learn, because this is a gift at the moment that you will not have later on. So think about it that way, and do the homework. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? We're good? Okay. Okay, we have a question from Paul.
Yes, I just wanted to draw your attention back to the line that says, find the right person to fit the role. Mm-hmm. Are there any exceptions to that? In the sense that you see somebody, for example, someone like Tayo comes and says they want to work in my organization. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hire him and find somewhere for him to fit in because I know his value. Mm-hmm. Is that ever an expectation, or do you always want to have the role and then find the person?
That's a great question. And in a lot of what I'm sharing with you here, I don't think there is a black and white approach. There are some nuances, of course, and also depends a lot on the individual. Normally, individuals that are have a broad experience, or they have, they thrive doing different things, tend to be more adaptable to the scenario that you're mentioning, where, okay, let's figure out what role could work for you. But I would say it is worth sitting down and understanding your company's needs and have that top of mind to understand where Tayo can bring the biggest value based on his strength. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Okay, great questions. Okay, so let me go to the next pillar that I wanted to discuss with you. So you thought about your organization, you thought about the roles that you need, you created the framework that will allow you to grow your business and bring the company forward. Now you need to start hiring, right? And hiring is an art. And again, it's not black and white. You're going to find amazing individuals and make great matches between role and individuals, but you're going also to mess up and hire the wrong person, and it's okay. So having a strong process for hiring allows you to minimize those instances where the right person was not identified, which will happen. It's a fact. So don't worry. It's something that will happen. Personally, in my experience, I try different methodologies to hiring team members. The one that I like the most and has been, the most effective and successful in my particular journey has been what is called impact hiring. Tech companies use this a lot. It's pretty much heavily based on how Google and Meta and Yahoo hire. And basically, it's focused on really evaluating candidates' ability to come to your organization and bring impact today, but also short term and long term. So it's not about their role that you're hiring, but how they can contribute to the wider picture. Can they help us make the team better, the company better? Do they have different interests other than the role at hand? So they could potentially pivot at some point and grow in different areas. So it's not necessarily 50 questions, tick on the box that you need to go through. So how this works primarily is basically not only considering the experience that the person had on, through their resume or their studies or theoretical knowledge that they may share with you. It's about being practical. It's about really going down to give me examples of how you solve these situations in the past. That's pretty much it. And with that, you're testing in that individual their practical skills, the ability to get something done and their way of getting things done, how they take problem solving, how they, what's common sense? Common sense is very difficult to test, right? So how do you do that? But it's so important because things are going to go wrong and you need people to be able to think on their feet, and how they're going to do that. So rule of thumb, when you create your interview framework, always think about the give me an example question. And I can walk you through some of the ones that I use. So that way, you're really understanding if that person can drive outcome, if tends to work independently or not, if it needs quite a lot of supervision or not, and if it takes accountability for mistakes or for successes as well. Is this person interested in the bigger picture or just particularly that role? So it gives you a lot of information about that character and the values that potentially other ways of interviewing may not provide. And then basically, this is what I mentioned before, there's the last bullet in this slide is about think about a good match for today and a good match for tomorrow. Not only because that person will be given incredible value to the organization, but also because that person will be happier in the role because they know that there is growth. They know that once they nail the role today, they'll be able to learn something new. And there are opportunities for them to thrive within the organization. So build a really, really strong interview process and focus on the give me an example question. My experience around building an interview process, it's always consisting of an interview panel with obviously me as the hiring manager, but also 2 or 3 other people that specialize on different areas, and particularly because they're very different from me. Diversity in that panel is critical because they will interview and they will allow me to see things that I don't see, because we know we all have biases, right? And we tend to hire people that we like, but what would happen if others have a different point of view, and that panel helps you really avoid the blind spots. That's very, very important. Then prepare your panel. I see there is a question. I'll finish this thought and then we can jump into that. So prepare the panel, tell them the role that you're looking for, exactly how you expect it to be, the kind of activities, the kind of responsibilities, how you're going to measure success for that role, the kind of individuals that you're looking for. So they are well prepared for their interview, so they can really be your ambassadors for that role. And I normally tend to add, depending on the role, it will vary, but always a practical exercise. It doesn't need to be too long. It doesn't need to be very complex at all. For sales role, for instance, I give the person a scenario of a challenge with a customer, and I ask them to propose how they will go and solve for it. And you don't want, personally in this kind of exercises, I don't want the person to have too much time to prepare, because I want to see how they think on their feet. I don't really care about the answer per se, the solution per se. I just want to see how they thought through the process of this particular challenge and what tools they're going to put in place to solve for that particular situation. So things like that. And then of course the give me an example question tells a lot about individuals. So let's go to questions. We have okay, I saw a hand, right? I'm not crazy.
Yes, there was a hand. Yusuf, do you want to ask a
Sorry,
question?
that was a mistake. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no worries. Okay, perfect. So I'll keep going. That's good. So the next slide actually is a little bit of a quiz for this group. If you're all up for a little bit of a play today, I'll give you a few minutes for you to think about what will be the answer to this question. That it seems very simple, right? I don't know if they're all everybody's in the same city, but I just really would like to know how many bicycles are in your city today. Yeah, this is an example of an impact hiring question, and I would love it if you spend 2-3 minutes, a little bit more if you need to, and then I would love 1 or 2 volunteers to walk me through what that answer is. How does that sound? Are we up for it? Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up. Perfect. All right, so I'll start counting 4 minutes now, and then I would love a volunteer to share your thoughts. last minute to wrap up your thoughts. And then we'd love to hear from you. All right. Do we have a volunteer to tell us how many bicycles are in your city? Was it a very tricky question?
Any volunteers?
Paul.
I don't know if I'm necessarily volunteering because I only have questions.
Okay.
You know?
Go for it.
Let's see if we have any volunteers before.
Yes,
Like just
please.
stay unmuted. Let's see if we have any volunteers. DK, is that you? Okay, Bukayo, go ahead.
Okay, let me try.
Give it a go. Give it a go.
All right. So the way I would think about it, or the way I would respond is, first, I'm going to consider my environment and say, because of how hot Nigeria and Abuja is, a lot of people are not about, like, they're not going to have bicycles. It will be a leisure thing.
Okay.
It's not a way to commute.
Okay.
I would also consider the total number of people that live in my area, and then break down who is fit enough, because we are not very fit people.
Okay, that's a tough filter.
Who is fit enough, who considers riding a bicycle a sport? And that number is going to be very little.
Okay.
So if I was going to give a figure, it to be doing that number of people in my city, people that do not mind doing exercise, cycling as an exercise, and I would give it I would say 100, which is a stretch, just because I'm in city center. I'm in Abuja, capital of Nigeria. We have a lot of people. We have a lot of bougie people that might consider cycling as a thing. So maybe that.
Okay. I love the connections that you made. Thank you so much. Well done. Thank you for sharing. Hopefully it is a brilliant example to everybody of how your thought process was, right? And you know, the level of detail that you went through to understand who is a viable cyclist in your town. That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing. We have two more hands. Would you like to? Who would?
DK and Yvonne, and then Paul can ask his question.
Perfect. Let's do it.
All right. So thank you. I will start from a different approach, because I know majority of people in Lagos probably get bicycles as gifts for their children. So I'll start by estimating the amount of young children, maybe within the ages of, say, 5 to 10 years, like as a starting point. Then I will move on to Lagos is not a good place to ride bicycle. It's too hot. So let's just discount riding bicycle for pleasure. Then I move on to delivery drivers. I know some people, especially all these child-led global, they have delivery riders who use bicycle around island, short distance rides. They
to do the
bicycle.
deliveries. Great. You thought about businesses. Okay.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, I'll consider them too. And then I will just probably make an estimate, rough estimate. Say we have about 10 million people in Lagos, because almost everybody is in Lagos. I can estimate, say, maybe we have around 400 to 600,000 bicycles. So that's my thought process.
Wonderful. Okay. You see how he got different angles to tackle this question as well, and a combination of children, weather, and business that could leverage bikes. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we have Yvonne as well.
Hi, I would actually start by asking the interviewer a question. Is he referring to electric bicycles or regular bicycles? If I don't have an answer, then I'm going to lump them together.
Okay.
So Lagos has around 17 million people. Most people live on the mainland, commute to the island. Even on the island, there's like Ikotun, Ikate, outskirt areas which require people to use bikes, right, to get to work on time if the buses are full. On the mainland, kind of the same thing. So based on that, I'm assuming a quarter of the population is using bikes every day because we see them even when we're in our cars. And I'm going to add the recreational users of bikes, like kids, cyclers on the weekend. So I'm going to say around like a quarter of the population, 3.54 million bikes are in circulation at any given moment in Lagos. Again,
Wonderful.
because he didn't specify. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I like your that you made an executive call about the type of bicycles, but you did have the thought about the nuance. Well, there are different types, all included. So that's really good. Very rich. Excellent. Amazing. Do we have any other hands, volunteers, or no? Okay. Well, I would say thank you. Sorry.
Call out a question.
Call
or a series
question.
of
Okay.
underline.
Before we jump into,
I think, I think the previous people that spoke asked a lot of the questions that I was going to ask.
Okay.
I didn't have the answer. I only had the questions.
Got it.
Okay, brilliant. And I would really love to thank our 3 volunteers. I love it how you had slightly different approaches, but there was a connecting tissue though. About the way that you were breaking the problem of the question into potential answers. And that's the important thing, right? I mean, we don't know how many bikes are in your seat. I mean, I don't know. So, but that's not necessarily the outcome that we were experimenting here. We were more curious about how you would break that question into little pieces to be able to make assumptions. So the questions are the starting point, and then I would encourage you to venture out into giving an answer to those questions. Even if it's an estimate, you can have an educated guess. And that shows the way you think on your feet, as is a great example. So maybe this is a question that you want to start using with your own interview processes. It's definitely a lot of fun. You get a lot of different views from people. So, particularly love it. Cool. Perfect. So thank you so much. We'll move to the next section, the third pillar that I wanted to share with you. And this is about goal setting. So if we progress on our journey, we have the design of the organization with effective and meaningful roles. We have a hiring process that helps us capture talent and identify those great fits between people and roles. And then when they join us, we want to make sure that they succeed, right? And how do we do that? Amongst other things, a key element is setting goals effectively. And this also seems easier said than done. And there are multiple ways and techniques and preferences that people use. I'm a really, really big believer on something as simple as setting SMART goals. That sounds simple, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. But more often than not, goals are not defined this way. They may be specific, I need you to hit this revenue goal. Therefore, it's measurable, but is it achievable? Is the person empowered to deliver on that revenue goal? Do they have the tools and resources? Is the product ready to be able to support that growth? Multiple things. Is there a timeline specific to that goal that we just agreed on? So my big recommendation is, in general, when you sit down with your team members to define those goals, is that you really have this little diagram close to you and test the goal. So once you define it, just go through the checklist. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And does it have a time limit? So what you want to get here is full clarity, that every person that has a goal understands exactly what they need to deliver, how and by when. It also gives them strong goals that motivates them. They are ambitious but not impossible. So that's very tight balance between like, yeah, it is a stretch, I can make it happen, but there is a little bit of uncertainty there, but that keeps me on my toes. And also that people are accountable. So if they have a goal to deliver against, they own it. And they own the success, but they also own the challenges. And we help them be empowered to deliver on those challenges as well, right? So we give them room to maneuver and to figure out how to achieve those goals. And then it's, in my particular experience, having clear goals that are measurable and achievable and keep people motivated and aligned with the company goals, it really helps individuals deliver more, because they get excited about what they're doing. It is aligned with the bigger picture of the company. They understand where they fit in, and therefore, you know, they have all the energy and the drive to be able to get things done. And the other piece that I really love always to add as an extra ingredient on this goal setting aspect is, what is that person passionate about? And it could be very much linked to a day-to-day delivery that they are in charge, or it could be something else that is somewhat connected. And within the organization, you have the ability to help that person experiment that passion and add it to the equation. So most of the time, my teams have what I call passion projects. So let's say that they have, you know, a goal about revenue. I normally run commercial teams, or they need to close certain business, or they need to, you know, grow an account. But they also can deliver an onboarding program for the whole organization, for example, because they love that type of work and they love teaching. So it's always good to leave a little bit of room for the individuals to be able to do something that they're passionate about, or at least that they think they're passionate about, and then trying it, they realize that, no, maybe this is not for me. But at least they had the option, and they will always value that. So you keep people really engaged and excited about being part of your team. And lastly, as you continue nurturing that community, that group of people that are your team or the other groups in your organization, it's crucial, vital that you communicate with impact. And what do I mean by this? First of all, create a culture of feedback. This is so important. And this is one of the things that I learned the hard way, because I worked in very different organizations with very different cultures. And the ones that were more impactful were the ones that had that culture, were just talking about things, obviously in a respectful way, in a meaningful way, really made a difference. And you know, it's not something that you acquire overnight, but is an exercise, is a muscle that you tone as you go. And there's, you know, lots of research down around this. A lot of companies have been investing a lot on building this type of cultures. I have a couple of examples here for you. Deloitte did a research around how teams work, and a culture of continuous feedback actually are 1.4 times more likely to outperform other teams. And also having that healthy feedback balance in an organization make people stay and own their job, but also be proactive about what they do, because they know that there is trust, there is transparency. And it's a really good feeling for an individual to thrive in an organization. So A lot of people get scared about feedback, and it's not easy. I don't know your personal experience, but it took me a while, and I'm still learning about how to give and how to receive feedback as well, which is potentially as difficult as giving feedback. But feedback is a gift. Most of my growth as an individual, as a professional, came from having received very important feedback throughout my life, and many times it was very difficult. But then once you start processing and you're open to it, you grow as an individual. And when you give it to others, you're helping that individual grow as well. So it's a two-way street, right? It's a back and forth. And if you take the time to give feedback or to ask for feedback, it's because you care, right? If you don't care, I'm sure that you've been in situations and organizations or groups or communities where you didn't feel that people care, and a lot of that has to do with how those communications are done and how much clarity and transparency is in the dialogue and the sharing. So a couple of thoughts from me. Feedback is a gift. Exactly. I love that. So give clear, actionable feedback, and on a timely basis, on the spot, pretty much. Right, and we can do an exercise as we wrap up this session. Right, just ask the questions. It could be a simple question. What did you love about my presentation today? What do you think I could do differently next time? Nothing violent or aggressive. It's just like simple. What do you think I could add next time? And everybody will have an opinion. We all know that. So being transparent as you give feedback is crucial. The other person will sense that you really care, and that builds that trust, that builds that rapport that you want, because it makes the space safe, and then you can have an honest conversation. Listen, stop and listen. So once you give your feedback, just don't run as like, okay, I've done my task, and it's just like, that's done, it's said. No, just listen, stay there. How do you feel about what I just shared with you? Do you agree? You disagree? We can talk about it. I would love to hear about what you think or how you feel. That's a very, very important part. Be human. Empathy is wonderful. And it just creates that bond between people. And then the next time that you talk about giving feedback to each other, it will be 10 times easier, because you know that there is trust, there's good intention, there is caring behind it. And be constructive, right? So make sure that when you give the feedback, you say like, okay, I think potentially next time, if you do this way, you will get more results, or it will be clear for me if you communicate, if you say things this way next time. Just give it a go, right? Make it about the individual, make it personal. Of course, there are moments where giving feedback could be a difficult conversation to be had. And I would say in those cases, go for it. Tackle it straight on. The more that you delay the tough conversations, the bigger the problem becomes, right? And if you never ever talk about it, you create a culture that it's pretty horrible, because there is no trust. There's people talking behind people's back. There is that element of, we don't talk about things, keep going. People in general, humans, we don't want to work in those environments. We suffer, we don't thrive. We just get smaller and smaller because we feel unsafe. So tackle things right on, prepare for those conversations. What helps me sometimes is just to get 2-3 bullet points of the things that I want to say and have them written down in advance. That will help my dialogue. I personally, think a lot about how to give feedback and how to say things the least painful way to some extent, and give examples and try to be as human as possible. So I like to prepare a little bit if the conversation is a biggie. Because the second bullet here is very important to me. It's like, I feel I'm responsible for having those tough conversations. If I don't have the tough conversations, then I am part of building that culture that has no trust. So if I see something that doesn't align with my values, with the company values, I just go straight for it, even if it's difficult. It shows that you care, and it shows that you're an example, because people will look at the way that you behave and will try it as well. And the other very important piece is just to try to take the feelings, the emotions out of the feedback that you're giving. Just be factual, practical. You know, this afternoon when that happened, this is the outcome. Next time, it would be great if we can do it slightly differently. So be very, very factual. Facts are very, very hard to deny or argue against. Emotions could have different interpretations. People could see things in different ways. And as you're giving feedback, it's as important that you ask for feedback as well, because that creates that muscle that I mentioned before. People will see that you are also interested in learning yourself, and they will value, and that you will value what they have to share with you. So it's a two-way street for sure. And lastly, it's not all about tough conversations, right? So there are amazing things that happen every day. And there are amazing things that we do pretty much every time, every moment of the day. Celebrate that. Take the time to highlight things that are amazing. We tend to optimize for problem solving, for worst case scenario, for challenges and things like that. But also there are amazing things that people do every day that personally I believe that they absolutely need to be recognized. When you are recognizing and celebrating others, it's important that you have a couple of things in mind. First of all, just do it on the spot as well. Do it as close as possible to whatever happened. If you don't do it on the spot, either you forget, or maybe it becomes less relevant, or just it becomes something that's not as special. Just address it on the spot. Personalize it as well. This is very important because not everybody likes to be recognized the same way. So the more that you know your team members, the better that you will be able to tweak what is meaningful to them, what resonates. Some people like to be shout out in front of everybody. Some people are very shy and they prefer, like during your one-to-one, that you just highlight what you thought it was amazing. Some people don't want shout outs, they just want money recognition or role recognition and progression and so on and so forth. So what really moves and is impactful for that person in terms of recognition? So that way, when you're celebrating their success, you're really hitting the nail in the head and it's much more impactful. And then just the other piece that it's very important, mostly we forget, is like when you are celebrating success, what are you celebrating? What was amazing? Just give an example. It just today when you were delivering, the monthly results, you were so clear and it was so easy to understand what you were saying that now I remember all the numbers. That table that you put together, it was crystal clear, and I love it. Please keep doing that. That's great, and it's very tangible. So now I know that if I continue presenting my results that way, it really lands. So that's definitely much more powerful than the classic great job. And be accurate and fair. If you're a leader, particularly, you could be in situations where you are doing shout outs in front of others. So be careful that you're balanced on how you do shout outs, because if you're constantly congratulating the same person, obviously the others are not going to feel very happy about that, or they may feel uncomfortable. But also when you do shout outs, you're showing who you are, your values, the company values, what is considered amazing in this organization, and so on and so forth. So you're definitely setting an example. It is amazing to do shout outs and share, celebrate as a group, but keep in mind that people may react differently. And just to wrap up, we're right on time. Hopefully we can do a few questions. I just wanted to leave you with this thought. You don't build a business, you build people, and then the people build the business. So keep that in mind when you think about the teams and the company that you would like to create. And with that, I will stop sharing. Thank you very much. Hopefully this was useful. And if we have a few more minutes, I'm very happy to take a few questions or thoughts, or maybe you want to share your experience about this chat, or you have any feedback for me. I would love to hear from you.
Oh, that was amazing. Thanks a lot, Natalia.
My pleasure.
Insightful, very practical as well. So I think that I can see that people agree. Well, people have questions, I'm sure. So guys, please put your questions in the comments. I have a sort of quick fire questions to ask Natalia as well while we wait for your own questions, guys. So Natalia, what is the one lesson that you've learned over your career that you wish that you knew 10 years ago?
I would say trust my instincts. When you start your journey, you're kind of you're not necessarily very confident, and you just see things or feel things. When you're interviewing something, you have an instinct about that, or when you're making a decision. And it took me a while to just kind of trust that. There's something here I need to listen to. So now I'm very aware of it.
Right. Okay, next one. What is the one book and one tool that has changed how you lead? One book,
one book. I'm not sure about books. I think there's quite a lot of the training and the learning and development that is done in companies like Google and Meta quite useful. Impact hiring is a tool that I inherited from it. Radical candor, the feedback, the difficult conversations that I mentioned before. Radical candor has been very, very useful for me to have better conversations and communicate differently as a leader. And also it's great with friends and family. So yeah, it helps you along the way.
All right. Okay, so final one. What's the one piece of advice you would give someone who is building a team in 2025 for the first time? Is their first ever time building a team on their own?
Good. First of all, have fun. It's great. It's great to be able to create an organization from scratch. You can shape so much. So it's amazing. It's a great opportunity. I would say do the homework. My very first slide about the organizational structure. Take the time. It doesn't need to take long. Take the time to think about your business, the culture that you want to build, and what are the roles that you need to achieve success, not only today, but also in the future. And make sure that you define the roles properly. That will give you the right foundation to hire over time and build that amazing, amazing team.
Right. Thank you so much. So everyone, I don't see any questions in there, so I'm going to assume that no one asked questions. And since we're a little bit over time, I would say to everyone, if there's anything to take away, it's a process. There is a question now.
Okay, let's see. Josh.
Yeah, Josh. I've had the privilege of building a team and presently in his own business and is to apply.
Right, so people are living. Interesting. Okay, that happens. People live. If people are consistently living, I would try to figure out a little bit more the why. Maybe salaries. It's a classic, particularly in the startup world. As they definitely become. They become stronger on their own feet, and they start gaining skills that the bigger companies are attracted to, and then they may be tempted based on money. So I will ask as much as possible, if they can be very, very honest about what's going on. That has been the number one thing that I struggle with. And yes, a small company, you can compete in some cases, right? So you have to let go. But let's not forget that unless it's a very quick turnaround, you had that individual growing and thriving for a long period of time, right? So it's kind of the nature of the beast to some extent. But again, if you're losing people after 6 months, probably it's not cost effective for you, and you need to think about what to do. In my experience, normally is linked to salary.
Thank you. Guys, that's all we're going to have time for today. Essentially, Natalia said you have to apply some of those principles, but also be flexible. Things change, and be adaptable. This video will be available on our YouTube channel. You can find it there. Thanks a lot, Natalia. Guys, a round of applause for Natalia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for playing as well. And I'm glad that you all went for the impact question. Thank you so much. See you all
right.
very soon. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.